You're watching It's Life Live with your hosts, Juan Lee and Oliver Marcel. Come join us for enriching, enlightening, encouraging, and thought-provoking conversation. Let's go.
Well, hello, everybody.
What's happening?
Welcome back to It's Life Live. How you doing, Oliver?
I'm good. It's life. So if we're gonna keep it all the way funky, I'm a lot was happening today, so I'm a little uh frazzled to
I
some,
hear you.
but I'm good otherwise.
Yeah.
Life is like that sometimes.
Well, you know what? And what we're all about is trying to navigate it.
Yes,
Trying to navigate it. And
trying to
so
navigate.
that's what we're here to do, is to help others as we ourselves navigate it our also. So it's not as though we exempt from it, or we got some silver bullet to do it different than everybody else. We're using the same tools that we're sharing with others to do it. And the thing about it is that it's everybody has got their own journey.
Yep.
We all in this thing together, but we all have our own separate journey. And so that's, hey, we both, it doesn't matter. I don't know if too many days go exactly the way we planned them.
True.
Or that we would want or hope for them to go.
Good point.
But so I guess let's just start off with just trying to introduce Clear Journey to everybody, and to welcome everybody again back to It's Life Live, which is sponsored by Clear Journey, which is a nonprofit that basically supports individuals that are searching for answers to navigate this life successfully, so that they can be fulfilled and live a fullness that they have for this experience called life. We have 8 areas of life that we promote and support. And tonight we're going to be talking about one of those areas. And it's going to be so interesting because I don't know if we have in the past. And we're going to talk about it a little bit, because my background is what really caused us to get this thing called Clear Journey up and running, because I was at a point in my life many years ago where I just didn't have any directions as it relates to how to navigate this thing. And I got to the point where I was like, what am I going to do? And so I was looking for directions, and I didn't actually, I had all of the pieces, but I didn't know how they all came together.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if everybody knows, but I guess if you don't, I will let you know. I wrote a book a few years ago, and it's called Love Made Simple: The Guide to Inner Peace, Contentment, and Success. And inside that book, and what I learned as a result of writing that book, was that there's attitudes of love that we can ascribe to, or we can gather, that helps us in this navigation of life, so that we can be prepared for these various aspects of life that we here at Clear Journey talk about. And those 8 areas, as you know, we've talked about before. It's financial areas, there's relationships, there's health, there's careers, employment, and there is self-improvement, along with organization, fun and recreation, and humanity in general. How we can navigate these 8 areas of life, because we're all going to be confronting all of these areas of life at some point in time. And in my journey, one of the most significant areas
Mm-hmm.
was financial.
Mm-hmm.
Was financial because finances they affect every area of your life. There is no area of your life that finances don't touch. And if you don't have them right, you'll see it.
Yeah. True.
You'll see it. And in my journey, um, through my career and through my life, I had and I say privilege, I had the opportunity that I was in financial um, services. I
Mm-hmm.
was residential and commercial and business financing for about 6 years. And it was during the time of prior to the financial crisis of '08.
Okay.
And it was so much that I had learned and that I saw how the financial industry or the financial sector operated and how people did not understand how it operated and how we were all, for the most part, fell subject to it. We were all subject to it in a way that I don't know if a lot of us understood the significance of it.
Mm-hmm.
But in the process of it, though, I began to look down and find how it was that people were being taken advantage of because of what. And that meant a lot to me in the sense of I was really trying to help people through a time when everybody should have or was should have been able to buy a home. It was like this is what it was all about. It was everybody should be able to buy a home, but nobody was understood what it was taking to buy the home because they didn't change the requirements. They just made or they didn't change. How did I say? They didn't change the regular way that you purchase a home. They
Mm-hmm.
changed the guidelines in the sense that the requirements were a lot more lenient.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
The same processes, but the requirements were more lenient.
Mm-hmm.
And the leniency didn't hurt anybody but the borrower.
Right.
It hurt the borrower,
Mm-hmm.
making it easier to do something, but it was almost like they were giving them rope to hang themselves.
Essentially, that you're right. That's what it was. It made it
They,
easier to get access, but what you accessed didn't change. The process of maintaining what you accessed didn't change.
absolutely. And so they was like throwing up these pies in the skies, and people was grabbing them, jumping for
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
them, not realizing and recognizing what it costs and takes to maintain.
Right.
And it just it just meant so much to me to be able to stop and think of like I was trying my best in that same time where people that was in my industry, in my field, in the residential and financial, we was doing mortgages and we was doing finances for businesses and they was making out like a boatload. They was making out.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to tell people you can't do this. I was telling people that no, you can't do this. These numbers don't make sense in spite of the fact that they say you can,
Mm-hmm.
don't mean that you should.
Right.
And when you don't know whether or not you should or not, and somebody's telling you that you can,
Mm-hmm. It's a red flag.
well, but here's the point. You don't know it's a red flag because somebody telling you that you can.
Mm-hmm.
And
And,
yet,
and often I know you're going to speak to this in a little bit, but that that acceptance or that green light that they're given, that that okay that they're given, hey, okay, yes, you can do this, right? For a lot of people, the the investigation, the research, it all stops when you see the green light. So if you tell me, okay, hey, listen, you can do this, there should be some part of me that confirms what you've granted me. But that sometimes doesn't happen. And I feel like, and I can't speak for people who went through that time period, but it feels like, at least in my experience with being granted access, that once you say yes to someone, then they run with the yes. And in this case, it probably would have been to people's advantage to be like, okay, you said all this makes sense. All right, let me make sure it makes sense to me too. And I don't think that happened with a lot of. There weren't a lot of people like you who were actually out there saying, hey, listen, I know you've been permitted. I know you've been granted access. I know you've been given acceptance, but this is probably not a good idea. I don't think there were a lot of people out there like you.
No,
Yeah.
and to be honest with you, people didn't like me.
I would imagine,
they
because
didn't
you're
like
taking
me.
because you're taking away the access that they've been granted.
Absolutely. I mean, but the numbers don't lie, and they
Mhm,
didn't add up.
mhm,
But the thing about it is, you were being people had not had access to these types of programs,
mhm,
these types of these types of financial tools,
mhm.
um, did not know what they did not know.
Yeah,
And
true.
as a result, when somebody told you that you could do something that you previously had no idea or even an inkling that you could do,
Mhm.
research, there was no research.
Nope.
There was no research.
Yep.
It was just okay,
Yeah,
and
it was
I'll do it.
it was just excitement. And
Oh,
I'm
absolutely.
and I wonder, and I'm just gonna throw out a dagger kind of controversial statement, and then we're gonna sweep it away and move on from it. We're not even it's not This is a whole nother conversation. But I wonder, statistically, how many church folk got caught up in that, because that granted access is a gift from above. It is the culmination of my faith. And I'm not being facetious, so don't stone me, church folk who are out there. Don't stone me, but I just wonder. All right, we can keep going. We can keep going.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
We can keep going. We can keep going.
Oh boy. I'm
I don't want to
mm.
get Juan and Clear Journey in
Oh,
trouble, so we keep going.
no.
I'll take
Uh,
responsibility for that
no,
statement.
no, no, no. I mean, because hey, you know what? You know what? It is what it is. What it is.
Yeah.
And and
And the reason
I
why I
am
said that, let me give the folks some context. Sorry to interrupt you, but let me give the folks some context so you don't think I'm just being a jerk, right? So Juan knows a story that I told him, and I'm not going to share it, but Juan knows a story that I told him that involves this type of thing, right? So that's why I say I wonder how many church folk were they probably would not have even listened to a Juan Lee, because the fact that they've been granted that access in something that is seemingly impossible is a gift. And I wonder how many people jump to that and then realize that what they jumped to was over a cliff
I,
financially.
I'm going to tell you without a doubt, with my experience,
Hmm.
there were those that were in the church that were mad at me
I believe it.
because I didn't help them.
Yep, I believe it. I believe it, because you were
Now,
standing in the way of what God had for them.
okay, yeah. I went through it, and when, like I said, when everybody else was chinging it in,
Hmm.
I was sitting up there going, y'all look, this is not good. Now this was probably in 04, 05, because these things start rolling out, and they probably start rolling out in 06.
Okay.
And what happened is that there were a lot of arm programs,
Mm-hmm.
and these were and then they came out with these interest only programs that were long arms.
Mm-hmm.
And so the thing is that you could qualify for a whole lot more house or loan when you only was expected to pay the interest only, or um, it was amortized, where you only had to pay, like I said, you only had to pay the interest of the loan for the first 3 years.
Okay.
After that,
Mm-hmm.
and then you culminate. Now, here's the thing: you're inflating, doing this, everybody buying. Guess what's happening to the market? The housing market, the prices are going up and up and up because there's this flux of available buyers.
Mm-hmm.
So the prices is going up because the demand is high.
Mm-hmm.
So then 3 years later comes 2008, when people start realizing that short-term interest only, or
Mm-hmm.
that term of 3 years of just the interest only being payment is now it wants full payment. And now we're starting to see people not being able to pay that mortgage. And now the values of those houses that they were buying begins to tank. So now there's no demand. The the values are going down, and the people that are caught in these homes can't get out of them.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by can't get out of them, they are valued at less than what the mortgage or the amount that they owe on the house.
Mm-hmm.
So that means you can't sell it because nobody's going to buy it for more than it's worth.
Right.
And so people got into a situation where now, because they didn't know, many of them spent the next 10 years or better trying to recoup from a decision of, do I go to foreclosure?
Mm-hmm.
Do I file bankruptcy because I can't afford it?
Mm-hmm.
Man, I was trying to get people that once the shoe dropped, I was trying to get people to say, look, don't love this house more than your future.
Wow.
Get out of it as soon as, because now that you're in it and you didn't rode the wave, get out of it as soon as you can. And people, because going back to what you were saying, God gave me this. I'm saying you got a payment that's coming due that is 60-70% of your net income, which is basically leaving you with not a penny to live off of.
Mm-hmm. I don't listen. I'm not God. His ways, that it says that his ways are higher than our ways, and his thoughts are higher than our thoughts. So I can't claim at all to be able to articulate what he's thinking. But I'm almost willing to bet that God is not going to give you something that's going to hurt you. Whole nother topic, but since you said that, that's just what came to mind.
You making this hard for me.
All
You're
right, I'm
making
done.
this
I'm done. That's it.
you're
No
making
more.
this hard
I,
for
I'm
me.
I'm done. Let's go on. Let's get into the topic.
Because I mean, it's we're gonna have to go there eventually, somehow or another way. But you made a statement, and the way you made that statement is as though, and I don't want to hear um there is a system to God, okay?
Mhm.
And he says that his ways, it's not a robbery to think like him,
Mm.
but you've got to invest in him to think like him. Okay.
Okay.
If you are going to not invest in him and just expect him to do something, there is a system to him that will allow you to do what you want to do as long as you're in line with the system.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that goes back to understanding the system. Guess what the system is for buying a house?
What's the system?
It's called financial management. It's
Mm-hmm.
called financial stewardship.
Yeah,
It's
that's
called financial stewardship.
that's a word we recognize. Stewardship.
Okay.
Word many of us recognize.
Yeah. And if you're and what we're going to be talking about here is in essence, guess what? Financial
Financial
stewardship.
stewardship. Mm-hmm.
Because what we're talking about is strategies for securing financial wellness. What do you think financial wellness is? Financial stewardship. It's basically learning the system.
Mm-hmm.
If you learn the system, then you can get the rewards that the system allows.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the other point you can say, I'm not gonna do it. There is there is things that would lend you to believe the fact that he would not give you anything that you could not keep.
Yeah. And I could see where that could be argued because, there are tests that we in incur as it relates to our relationship. Um yeah. I think me that if that's the argument from somebody, I think my pushback on that argument would be because I do agree, but my pushback on that argument would be that it's not going to be because God is a God of order, that it's not going to be a disorderly test, meaning that
Mm-mm,
it's not going to require you to go against the system in order
mm-mm.
to go through the test.
Absolutely not.
Right.
Absolutely not.
Right.
That's a contrary to the no. It's not going to ask you to. It's not going to. It's not going to ask you to do something contrary to the norms that are surrounding you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's a oh boy. I'm not going to look. He's orderly. You've already said that he's orderly.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to do anything out of disorder so that it would suit you or me or
Mm-hmm.
anyone in particular.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But so let's get into the heart of the matter here then for the sake of this is like strategies for securing financial wellness. Now, this is like really a 3-part series and we're not going to get into all of it tonight.
Mm-hmm.
But what we're going to do is basically identify some very interesting or very significant and fundamental parts. And it's the first thing that we have to do is to understand the reason and the need for financial planning.
Okay.
And this is what we're talking about right here is the ability. Why is financial planning necessary? Here's the thing. It allows us to anticipate financial future financial needs.
Okay.
That's what this is all about. It allows you to prepare for emergencies and so that you can make alignments with your long-term goals. That's why financial planning is so important. We talk about you should, but why should you? It's
Mm-hmm.
for these purposes so that you can look over and see what's coming down the pipe and prepare for emergencies that you can't prepare for going down the pipe.
Mm-hmm.
And then how those decisions and those things line up with what your goals are.
Okay.
And see, if you don't have any goals, you sit back and go, like, well, why do I need this? Oh, but here's the point. You need some goals.
Right. Right.
You need some goals. When somebody comes to see here's the point. Somebody comes up to you and tell you you can do something that you know you can't do.
Mm-hmm.
If you have financial planning, somebody couldn't have came to you and told you that you could buy something that you couldn't afford.
Good point. Because you would already know. You would have already done the math. You would have already done the research, and you would already saw the red flag when they're like, "Wait a minute, yeah, you gonna give me all of this when I can only really afford that? What's the catch?"
Mm, mm. That's a good question that you should ask that,
Mm.
because I'm gonna ask you a question, Oliver. When's the first time you got a credit card?
First time I got a credit card was at the age of 18.
18.
18. That
18.
was the first time I got a credit card at the age of 18 on the college of on the campus of the university that I attended. I did not know what I was getting. Here's all I knew. There were two things that I knew. One was there was all these beautiful gifts and gadgets in our student center. And if you filled out these applications, literally, if you just put your name and your number and your dorm room down on this piece of paper, you could get this wonderful gift. And they were great gifts.
Mm-hmm.
Like they weren't like, oh, come get this frisbee and these pens. No, no, no. They were giving away like Walkmans.
Mm-hmm.
For though I'm dating myself now, but for those of us who are older, we know like that's something that was a necessary
Mm-hmm.
item,
Mm-hmm.
in our college days, right?
That was
They-
like an iPhone back then.
exactly. That was the iPod back in the day, right? So
iPod, nothing. That was an
that's right.
iPhone.
That's right. Yeah, you're right. That was a big deal. And they were giving away. I remember getting a CD, a Walkman CD player, filling out a card, right? So that was the one thing I knew. They were giving gifts. The other thing I knew is that if by chance I got this card, I now had buying power. Now there's a whole lot that comes on the backside of that sentence, but for me, that's where it stopped.
I'm
I
gonna
have buying power.
I'm going to share with you a little something about that buying power.
I learned the hard way, my brother. Trust, and you
Um,
know the story because I told you one of the stories.
but here's the real interesting part about that. Prior to that, how often had you ever bought something without paying for it when you left with whatever you purchased?
That would be never.
That would be considered what?
That would be theft.
That would be theft.
Right.
Okay. But all of a sudden, you now get a card
Mm-hmm.
that allows you to do just that.
Yep. All I got to do
Now,
is walk in.
now, here's the thing. What, who, what vendor do you know that would allow you to steal from them?
No one.
And yet the banks give you the appearance
Mm-hmm.
of being able to do that.
Yep. Because here's the thing, and I don't know how it happens now. I would imagine it happens the same way. Whereas, because I think about all the cards that I got back in that time period, and there was one card in particular that thankfully it had a high, uh, it had a fee that you had to pay
Mhm.
to keep the card, and thankfully that fee was high enough that I was like, you know what, I don't want to keep this card because I don't want to pay that fee. Because had it not had a fee, all of the foolishness that I experienced after I got those cards would have been quadrupled had I kept that American Express.
Well, the only thing back in the day with the American Express is that you had to pay the balance every month.
Right.
And and
But
and
even
that was a way that American Express had a way of controlling who they
who
were
did it?
getting that card to, because the consequences of that, There was no carrying balance.
But here's what's crazy, Juan. That's not even that wasn't even the thing that deterred me. Because here's the thing, and this is where what I love about what you guys are doing with financial education. Here's the thing. Nobody talked about those cards at all. I filled out a piece of paper. I put my name, my address, which was my dorm room, my phone number, which was the phone in my dorm room. And all of a sudden, these cards, which is popping up in the mail, nobody said anything about it. I had no idea what an APR, I had no idea what none of that was.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't read any fine print. The card came in a pamphlet. I never even looked at the pamphlet. I just peeled off because the sticky stuff off the back of the card and put it in on my dresser. And so it wasn't even the fact that I would have had to pay the American Express off at the end of the month, because I probably wouldn't have even known that until it was too late. But the majority of the cards that I got had no annual fee.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, and I don't know if they do this, if they did it then, because I didn't have any education. Now they're smart. Now there are cards that have annual fees and they take it out of your balance. They take it out of your what's the word?
They add it to your balance.
What they add, yeah. So let's say you add it to your, they take it from your limit. So let's say, for example, your limit is $1,000 and the annual fee is 75. Your limit now becomes 925. So
Well,
now it's even easier for you to get a card and not even be concerned about, oh, well, I don't have the money to pay. Because for me, I didn't have the money to pay American Express when I was 18.
Wow.
So I was like, nope, I don't want that.
Well, see, now American Express allows you to carry a balance.
Oh, they do? Okay.
They do. They allow you. Now, I don't know. I mean, I don't carry balance, but
I don't have one. So
yeah, well, they didn't realize the way that, they weren't making as much money as the rest of the people were, because what they initially was doing was when people weren't able to pay at the end of the month, they closed the account and put a lien up against the person, and there goes their credit score.
Right.
So now they got this delinquency on their credit score, and they don't even know they have a credit score yet.
Yep.
Okay.
And speaking to credit score and education, like when I say, bro, absolutely zero of that was ever explained to any of the hundreds of kids that were filing through that student center, filling out those applications. I mean, nothing was explained.
Well, and that's the thing that I wanted to get to right here is that we got to a point where, in what we were talking about earlier, prior to getting that card and understanding the psychology behind why the banks would give you a card and allow you to steal from somebody. Because here's what they're doing. I mean, let's think about this. The bank is you are basically selling your potential to the bank. Selling your potential to them. Because see, you're promising something that you don't have. You're going to now purchase something with what they're going to give the vendor, and they're going to hold you in debt for something that you do not have, in hopes that you will get it.
Yeah.
In hopes that you will get it. So if you just look at the picture as it relates to what a credit card, what the banks are doing to you, they are basically telling you, I'm taking your future, and you don't even know it.
Wow. That's crazy.
I'm taking something that you haven't even earned yet. And if you don't give it to me, you will be forever hurt for not giving it to me.
Yep.
You
And you
talking
know what?
about a gangster.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, that's hard. You're right. And here's the thing, right? And I'll speak for myself. I'm not going so that nobody feels like I'm calling folk out. I'll speak for myself. The unfortunate thing about that is it creates a mindset that you become content with. And actually it creates in people the ideology that, hey, you know what? I know what I'm getting into, but I got time to get it. And I'll admit, I was one of those people. In the beginning, I had no idea what I was getting into. But then at some point, I knew how the system works. Okay, listen, you got this level of interest that's going to be charged. You got this minimum balance that's going to come in. If you pay the minimum balance, and if they got all these little tricks of the trade, you pay it twice a month and whatever it is, right? Now I know. But now I'm like, hey, listen, I need the extra leverage financially. So I'm going to walk eyes open into this in the hopes that by the time it's time for me to do to do what I need to do, that I will have acquired what I need to acquire. And that's where people get messed up because God forbid you don't have what you need to have when it's time to have it, and you are in a forever perpetual downhill slalom financially. And I've been there, so I can
Well,
speak to that.
and the thing about it is that this you bring up something that is a little bit of a challenge for a lot of people because businesses use debt.
Hmm.
They can use debt.
Hmm.
If you understand what is happening and why businesses can use it, it's when you know you have revenue, businesses generate revenue.
Hmm.
And when you know you have revenue, see, that's one of the things that I was telling you about. I did some business financing.
Hmm.
And when you understand business and the power of cash flow and understanding how much money you got flowing through your organization
Hmm.
and how you get that money to flow through your organization and how your margins on that flowing through your business. See, there you have a lot more leverage and a lot more control over debt because you got so many other factors in that process that can allow you to, for lack of a better word, you can manipulate that debt.
Hmm.
Okay. When you're a sole proprietor or you are an individual
Hmm.
and you are using debt, and here's what they call it: consumer debt,
Hmm.
debt that does not generate any revenue. It is totally different.
Yep.
It is totally different.
Hmm.
And here's where I think a lot of people run into a lot of difficulty because they get caught on the minimum payment. They figure that I can pay my bills, and they're at this very moment, they are living in the moment. And I don't know how many times we've talked about the value of the moment,
Hmm.
but every time they use the moment to pay that minimum payment, they are forfeiting their future.
Yep.
They are forfeiting their future. And that minimum, I can't tell you a month. And I tell you, I mean, I told you this story before. You know, the thing that really got me with the credit card was I was 19 years old, just like you. I had a credit card, and I bought a stereo system.
Hmm.
It was a rack system from J.C. Penney, and I put it on their charge.
Hmm.
And I was in the military, and they would give you a credit of $1,000
Mm.
right off the bat. My stereo cost $990.
Mm.
And I went and made the payment. I think the payment was like $125 a month.
Mm-hmm.
The interest on that was $190 a month. 19%.
So you were paying. You were paying, and the bill was going up.
Going up. Going up. And I was like, this ain't going. I can't never pay this off. Not like this.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what? I was paying my bills every month, and
Mm-hmm.
I got to the point I was like, it took me 2 months to realize that this is not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And then I took the next 7 months and I paid that whole thing off because I was throwing money over that thing. I was like, this don't make no sense. Every time I put money down, it went up. So I had to put at least $250 at least just to see it go down.
Mm-hmm.
But yet I was paying my minimum.
Yeah.
And we get stuck on paying our minimum, not knowing that the minimum is meant to keep you paying, forfeiting your future.
Mm-hmm. Hey, listen. Quite honestly, and I'm halfway saying this facetiously, but I really mean it. It's a phenomenal business practice if you're on the other side.
Hold on, look, and people don't
Like that's ingenious if you're on the other side. You know what I mean? That's
you don't understand, and we still don't quite get it. We
mm-hmm.
don't understand that when I say the financial industry, it affects every area of our lives. It's in everything. You talk about Wall Street. Wall Street has its fingers in every sector in our society. If there's a way to make some money off of it, finances is in it.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's nothing that is not operating around us and that does not need finances,
Mm-hmm.
and so they make the game.
Mm-hmm.
They determine the rules. And that's why what happened back in 08 was that they made some whack rules. They were, as long as they was putting out those products, people was buying them up and they was banking. But when people stopped paying them,
Mm-hmm.
it flipped the whole industry upside down.
Yeah. And I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but I believe that to some degree there is knowledge around the trajectory of events, right? And I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. I had a friend of mine tell me that they were looking at some houses or looking at some property, and this was way back. I don't know if it was during this time period, but it might have been close to this time period. And they had another friend who was very well versed in the financial community. And that person told them, hey, listen, hold off. Because here's what's going to happen. All of this stuff is going to jump. And then these couple events are going to happen and it's going to all jump. It's going to all fall. And then I'll let you know. So I feel like, without sounding like a conspiracy theorist, I feel like if you're on the other side of that, it's ingenious because you know and can orchestrate how things will play out to ensure that you get a windfall.
Well, here's the thing. They call that hedging.
Mm-hmm.
They call that hedging. And if you understood the products that they were putting out based on the people who were purchasing or acquiring the products,
Mm-hmm.
see, you've opened up a whole big barrel of worms now, because it really goes to the point where you didn't have to be blind. You could be blind and see what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
You could be blind and see what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
When you had people buying houses that couldn't pay their rent.
Right. Go figure. And that's why I think, I think some people went in eyes wide open. Some people went in and they were just happy, like, wow, I can't believe you're giving me this opportunity. I'm just going to do it. I'm not even thinking. Other people are like, listen, you know what? I love the fact that you're giving me this interest-free only loan because that's going to give me 3 years to become a millionaire.
You do know that's not the right way to go about doing that, right?
It's not, but I promise you there are a lot of people who did that.
Yeah, but that who do you know make $1 million by buying $1 million house?
Right.
That's
But they're
like
not
that's like
but they're not
that's a,
thinking about that.
yeah,
They're
but
not
yeah,
thinking
but yeah.
about that.
Come on. Now, here's what I'm talking about. You got a Delonte, you got a Denali in the hood.
Mhm.
You got a Denali
Mhm.
living in the hood.
Mhm.
Okay, let me say this again. You got a Denali
Mhm. I'm with you.
living in the hood.
Mhm. Common practice. Hood rich.
You know that when somebody get that product that's going to give you a 3-year arm, interest only, with somebody who's living in the hood driving a Denali, you know it's just a matter of time. You know it's just a
Yeah.
matter of time.
Yeah, but
You've got your order of things a little bit upside
you got
down.
it upside down, yeah. But listen, we're optimistic, right? We're like, listen, God is gonna open doors for us.
See, why you go there? Why you
You know what I'm
go
saying?
there?
This is a blessing, bro.
Why
I got this interest only loan, and for 3 years, I only have to pay this little bit of money. And what's gonna happen in those 3 years is that doors are going to open and the overflow is going to wash over me and I'm going to have all of this money because I've
do
become this
do
great
you
businessman and I got all this money. So when it's time, we're going to be good, fam. Ah.
you really
Hey, listen.
you
Hey,
really
we're laughing, but you know it's true, bro.
no,
You know it.
no. I, we didn't even get to the real core of the things that I was talking about because I wanted to talk about what it takes to have to have this financial plan, and it's a plan to stay out of debt.
Let's
And
get into it for a little
what
bit.
it takes, huh?
I said, let's get into it for a little bit.
Okay, what it takes, and these are the attitudes of love that I was trying to share at the beginning.
Hmm.
And the attitudes of love that you need to be able to do this, the first one is sacrifice. You got to be willing to sacrifice.
Okay.
If you don't know, here's the point. If there is no sacrifice in what you're doing, it's a possibility that it might not be for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? If it's too good to be true, and when I'm talking about sacrifice, you if you if you are can't recognize the need for sacrifice, don't do it, because there is nothing in nothing comes without sacrifice. Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing. If you want to, you've got to invest in, you've got to put something in. If it's too good to be true, you've heard the saying, it probably is.
Mm-hmm.
And how you do that is it takes sacrifice. If you can put something in it from you. You got to put something in it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's amazing. They were waiving what you put into into the deal.
Mm.
You ain't had to put nothing in.
Got you. Yeah. Got you.
It ain't like, okay, if I sacrifice this, if I hold back this, then I can put something. That's what that's all about when you have to put a down payment, is that you got some skin in the game.
Mm-hmm.
They waived it.
Mm.
So the first thing is you got to have sacrifice. And you've got to know that you need to sacrifice something.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm helping you out, sacrifice. Next thing is responsibility. Responsibility. You've got to own the choices and the decisions that you're making and understand what the consequences are of the decision that you're making. When somebody's telling you that you can get something for free, what's the catch?
Yeah.
Where's my responsibility in this? What is it going to cost me
Mm-hmm.
if you offer me? Again, if it's too good to be true, and maybe it
Mm-hmm.
ain't true, it ain't right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unless you can do and you've talked about this a lot. You said, if I've done the research. Now, see, this is where you do the research at. Is your accountability or responsibility. It is where if you've not done no research, that ain't the thing for you to do.
Mm-hmm.
If you go into it like, they get me to do something, I ain't never think yeah, I'm doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't thinking no, ain't seen a red flag. Couldn't see it if it was somebody was waving in front of them.
Yeah.
Okay. And the last one is discipline. Discipline is the other attitude that you need in financial responsibility to be able to manage and navigate this, because you can't just do it for a week, a month, or a year. You've got to change your mindset and being understanding that this is something that you've got to be consistent in and being disciplined to do. But understand it, as you do it regularly, it becomes second nature. You understand, because here's the thing, we are creatures of habit.
Mm-hmm.
And once we begin to discipline ourselves, we do the same things over and over again. And it's when we're understanding, like we were talking about, it's the anticipation of future expenses and future needs. Because again, it goes down into some other areas that we talked about as budgeting, and it allows us to determine what our needs are and our wants.
Mm-hmm.
We get to, when you look down at your budget and you go like, do I really need that, or is it just something that I want?
Mm-hmm.
See, it makes us to be very conscious of what we're doing when when we're financially um, a steward over what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
We're monitoring it. We're looking at it, and it allows us to be able to see things in a way that makes us make more conscious and more beneficial choices.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas is that if otherwise we wouldn't have done. And seeing these again, it allows us to build emergency funds for things that we can't see coming down the pipe. Again, all of these things are necessary in why we do this financial management. Um, it also allows us to stay focused. Allows us to stay focused, because if it goals that we're trying to do, when we put ourselves under a budget, under a management of our finances, it allows us to stay focused, because if we want to reach our goals, we've got to stay focused. We've got to have something to allow us to keep us, with our minds focused on what it is that's important versus those things that are drawing us off. We have a tendency in old church days, you said the devil made you do it. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Keep you off focus. It draws your attention off of something but if you don't have any goals, guess how easy it is to be drawn off.
Oh yeah, it's inevitable at that point that you're gonna go in a direction you don't want to.
And guess what? So now you giving place. You giving place to the old single-eyed fool.
Mm-hmm.
He all he gonna do is come over and just draw you over, because you ain't got no goals, you ain't got no plans.
Mm-hmm.
So then guess what? Anybody's plan is better than no plan, and it just don't work. But that's critical in this process, is to know what you know, and you have goals. You gotta have goals. Um, yeah, we up against the clock. But I guess the gist of this is all about um, prioritizing your goals, managing your finances
Mm-hmm.
in a manner in which you can reach your goals and have a good perspective, conscious of what you're doing from day to day. See, because it doesn't take but one bad choice to derail your thing.
Yeah.
And it makes you, it's all about being able to be conscious of your day-to-day actions so as to staying on course. That's what this is all about. And if you can gather the need for this financial planning and allow yourself, and the whole purpose, if you can stay out of debt, it's so much better than trying to get out of debt.
Yeah.
That's the gist of it. I just summarized it up. One thing that I want to say about, if you don't have any goals, next week we'll talk about the types of goals and how there's an acronym. It's called SMART. It's specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. That's the type of goals that you want to make, so that they are obtainable. But you got to have goals. If you don't have goals, you can't manage your finances, and your finances is what's going to affect every other area of your life.
Very good.
I don't know how much we had a good conversation. I tell you, it was really good. I don't know if anybody who was there, if you didn't hear it as live, or you're listening to this in recording, if you have any questions, put them in the remarks or comments. But we didn't say, please subscribe to our channel. We're trying to be here for you, to do what we can to help you navigate. And in this area of what we're doing is your finances, it's critical. We have at least two more parts to this segment of being able to manage your finances strategically, secure a financial wellness. It's more to it than meets the eye. And unfortunately, the way you manage it is to get in front of it, not to end up chasing it. So, Oliver, how can they catch up with you?
If you want to catch up with me and you are a social media person, right here is the handle at Denali LLC everywhere. You can find me on social media, or you can email me, oliver@denali.org. I would love to have a conversation with you. Those of you who follow us, you know by now who I am. But for those of you who may be new to this, I am an author, speaker, and coach in the relationship building and men's enrichment spaces. And it is my goal to help you to build and maintain the relationship of your dreams, both personally and professionally. So let's have a conversation. I'm looking forward to hearing from you.
Hey, all righty. This was very good, and I think what we will be doing in the future is assessing or attributing attitude to the conversation, so that people understand the value of the attitude as it relates to being able to navigate these areas that we're talking about in your lives, because it is crucial to have the right attitudes to go along with this information, because it's going to take those attitudes to endure, to go through, to navigate the challenges that are going to confront you as you go through your journey. And so that's what we're going to be doing for the next few weeks. We're going to be dealing with this financial area. If you want to know more about Clear Journey, just go to clearjourney.org. You'll see all of the areas that we talk about over there, and be aware of what's coming up soon. We're going to have a financial seminar coming up in April. Look out for that. You'll hear more about that coming up in the near future. But as always, we really appreciate you coming and being a part of us. If there's anything that you would like to hear from us or about us, you can always go to info@clearjourney.org, send us an email, and we will be happy to respond. Anything else, Oliver?
No, I think that's it. Good conversation. You know, we we need to get in a space where we are getting this financial education because, like as you said, it touches every area of our lives, and so why would you not want to have as much information, knowledge, and wisdom as possible to be
Hmm.
able to navigate that successfully?
Yeah. And so, with that being said, it's as we say always, we can't change life, but we can help you navigate it. So, we'll see you next week, next Wednesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern, right here on It's Life Live. And until then, have a great week.
Later.